Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you at today's webinar, Simple Ways to Build a Secure Digital Workplace. Whether you are tuning in from webex, Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. We are from the Star Events Unit, and this live webinar is brought to you by Star Media Group in partnership with Cisco. We hope you are staying safe and innovative as we continue adapting with the COVID-19 pandemic. How are you doing in the new MCO 3.0? Is it the same as previous MCOs, or does it feel a bit different now? How many of you are working from home? We'd love to hear from you, so please type in the chat box or in the comment section. As you already know by now, it was recently announced that 80% of government staff and 40% of the private sector are required to work from home in efforts to flatten the COVID-19 curve in Malaysia. What was initially planned as an interim solution to the pandemic now requires a long-term strategy, as working from home is the new norm. One thing is for sure, meeting work from home expectations without compromising network security is one of the most complex challenges that businesses and IT managers have ever faced. According to the UK National Fraud and Cybersecurity Centre, it was reported that there was 400% increase in cybercrime since March 2020. This sudden increase leaves organizations vulnerable with plenty of questions. One of the key critical questions that you should ask is your network built to handle 2021 onwards? In this webinar, you will learn how Cisco can assist your business by protecting your network in a remote working era. Today, our guest speaker will be covering three key discussion areas: the shift to digital, seamless security to small business, and seamless integrations powered by Meraki platform. Alright, so before we begin, there are a few housekeeping matters to go over. I'm sure by now most of us are pretty familiar with online events. And as much as we strive to provide top quality production for all of our events, some things are just beyond our control. So please be patient if you experience any technical or internet glitches. If you need any assistance from us, you may chat with us with our events crew, or you can also email us at events@thestar.com.my. If you have any questions for our speaker, he will be addressing them in between his presentation, so please do send us your questions. For WebEx viewers, you will post your questions in the chat box, and for those on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, you may post it in the comment section. Lastly, and most importantly, don't forget to engage, learn, and enjoy. Now, without further ado, we are excited to kickstart today's program. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our guest speaker. Derek Low is the Meraki Product Sales Specialist at Cisco Systems Malaysia. Derek has years of networking experience and enjoys sharing on the concept of simplicity, security, and scalability with Cisco. If you have any questions for Derek, please send them over. Hi Derek, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tasha. I think that is a very brilliant introduction and has actually really covered the majority of like the pointers that we are trying to present today. But definitely to all the audiences who are in this webinar today, I can see that, wow, there's actually already about like 100 to 200 of you. So definitely thank you very much for taking your time off like this very crucial period that we are in. We can call it like a delicate period if you want. We can call it as a period where we need to really like stay safe, stay well, stay at home. Whatever it is, I hope that all of you are staying healthy and are still being really productive during this time. Definitely, I think this topic that we are having here today, it is a very important topic that I believe it is very relevant to a lot of the attendees that are in this webinar today. And I would really want to thank the Star for really arranging this wonderful session to allow me to actually share with you what are the key tips and tricks that is required in order to really prepare yourself for a digital workplace in the future. As we all know, this is a time where all of us, we need to be resilient and we need to have that flexibility to work from anywhere and not just be restricted to just one premise or just one office. So definitely, let me give you a very quick preamble or a very quick introduction to this topic. As we all know, since the very beginning of the MCO in March of last year, I believe a lot of businesses, they were actually trying to adapt. They were actually trying to get their bearings right with regards to, hey, what I really need to do in order to make sure my workforce continues working, and what do I need to do in order for my business to survive during this time. So definitely that was also a very good period where we have actually partnered with McKinsey for a survey that actually showed that a majority of the businesses and the enterprises out there have actually moved into digitization a lot faster than they think that they could. And definitely a very, very core fundamental of that digitization process is going back to the simple basics, such as like having the right applications in order to collaborate between one another. I believe like during that time, a lot of us, we were scrambling to get into this concept, like how do I actually be able to like talk to my peers, talk to my customers without meeting them face to face. And that was a very brilliant moment where I think we can see that there's a lot of companies out there, Cisco included, that really gave this tool that is invaluable out to the majority of the public for free. So definitely there is a big change in terms of the application landscape where collaboration is key. But more importantly, I believe at the same time, a majority of the businesses out there, you are also trying to adapt into making sure that your business processes can be digitized and can be managed through a platform as soon as possible rather than doing things manually. And thanks to the advent of the software as a service motion that I believe a lot of you have actually got recognized, like have actually realized that it is something that is beneficial for my organization and it is something that is easy for me to consume. I believe that is what that really sped up this digitization process. So definitely, I hope that this will actually go on further and further as we are in this space and this period of time. But more importantly, we all have to realize this, that at the same time, the distractions that we have in the digital space is also growing. Things like social media, things like video streaming, things like music subscriptions and so on. Those are the things that somehow rather than not, it might not be contributing to like the productivity in the office. And maybe if you are working from home, you might have like your kids who are actually need to stay entertained while you work and such. Those are the things that I wouldn't say it is a barrier to productivity, but I would say it is something that might serve as a distraction. And to some business owners out there, I believe this is something that you might want to manage, and we will actually share further in the course of this webinar. But more importantly, I think during this period of time, we also have to acknowledge the fact where workplaces are also changing. It is no longer like the same fact where I believe all like 100 employees or 1,000 employees, they need to work back in a single office due to like, especially like what Tasha mentioned in the earlier part of this webinar, where I believe only 40% of the private sector needs to work from home, and 60% can be in the office, and 80% of the government sector and such. The workplace is really changing drastically due to all of these facts that is impeding into things like, hey, how do I make sure the office is safe for my workers to work? How do I make sure that my retail store, it is having like the right customer density and such? How do I manage all of these things? It can be a little bit hard and it can be a little bit challenging for you to manage those things. At the same time, working from home, I believe it is something that we somehow rather than not, we might have already got used to. And a lot of the times, due to like the same applications that I mentioned earlier, video conferencing and such, it is bringing us all together really well. But this is where I believe things like bandwidth management, things like how do I manage all of the connectivity to be productive as if I'm in the office, it is important. It is important. And this is something that I believe a majority of your staff or a majority of at least executives in the office, they want to have the consistent experience of working from home and working in the office. But at the same time, knowing that there is also a lot of like new changes in like the office environment out there, there's also a lot more collaborative spaces where, such as this picture that I'm sharing here, people are collaborating more, although they need to be socially distanced. And at the same time, same as like the people who are working from home, they do still need to work together as if they are in the same office environment. And offices are also changing. I think we can all also see it because of how video conferencing is also becoming something that is a little bit of a norm at the moment. This is where media consumption in the office has actually reached as like an all-time high. I have customers who have actually really used up like 1 gigabit of connection in the office before the pandemic, and like it definitely after right now with how they need to serve like some users who are working from home into connecting back to the office to collect files and stuff. Bandwidth is a important key in order to ensure that you have the right experience everywhere. And we are only limited by a certain threshold that like the service provider can manage to offer to you. And this is where you really need to work with your service providers or your technical consultants on, or maybe even work with us to see how we can optimize your network connectivity to make sure that, all right, if you have 100 users, how can I democratize like the connections for all of them? And how can I make sure that everyone is staying, is not utilizing beyond what they have that is required? And most importantly, we are also reaching this stage in this pandemic or in this period of time where security has changed a lot. And this is where I really would like to showcase like some of the articles that I actually found from the STAR website. That, I mean, this is a webinar that's done by STAR, right? So we need to reference back whatever that they have reported. And very, very recently, there is a major cyber attack that actually occurred in the US where it actually caused a lot of disruptions to the utility, the main utility that I believe a lot of us still rely on, which is the fuel pipeline. And this actually caused a lot of fuel shortages in the east coast of the United States. But you might ask me, hey, how is this relevant to me? Or how is this impacting me as a business, even though I might be small or even though I might be a very large enterprise? There is definitely a lot of disruptions that would occur to you. And especially when it comes to things like customer reputation, like if you have to report that like you got a breach and so on, I think it becomes a known thing in the market that like, hey, this company has some issues left and right. But moving back to our shores, I believe all of us, we are familiar with this term that is called ransomware, and a very, very big, how I say, example of it is this thing that is called WannaCry that actually occurred in like the years of 2017, 2018. And actually, I just read a report not too long ago that it is still happening to some customers right now. So the thing is that the threat landscape that we are actually seeing is actually coming into a lot of different vectors. It's actually coming into a lot of different things. And I believe there are also certain incidences out there that I think we can all relate to, such as online banking scams, or such as things like the phishing websites where instead of going to a Maybank to you website, maybe it becomes Maybank to you and you key in your information there, then you realize that, oh, I actually exfiltrated my data then out and I need to call Maybank to block my account immediately. That actually also happens to many of us. And true story, that also impacted me not too long ago. Third, due to the advent of things like IoT networks and stuff, of IoT devices, it also opened a very big important threat vector into a lot of the networks that we have right now, where we actually see that a majority of the threat of the data leaks or like the data outbreaks and stuff, it actually comes from something which is not so secure that is exposed to the public internet, and this is where a majority of the attacks actually comes in here. Yep, I can see that Yinting has pinged me about something. Is that, do you have like a question from the floor, Yinting?
Yes, we do. So this someone's asking, what are some of the basic things that my company can do to make sure that I'm protected from all these security attacks?
That is a very good question, Yinting. Because I believe like when it comes to like these things such as these security things, a lot of it can actually be prevented by some proactive measures that you may take It could be as simple as just updating like the firmware of your devices, anything that can be updated, like your mobile phone or your, let's say you have like a toaster that can be connected to a Wi-Fi network. Those things, there might be certain firmware updates that it could come from the manufacturer that you need to periodically update them. And at the same time, one thing that is a very important part that you need to always be aware of, is things such as passwords. Because passwords, there is a lot of things out there where you can actually like brute force like an attack into checking like, hey, what is the right password for this user and stuff. It is actually quite important for you to always periodically update certain things like your passwords in order to make sure that you are getting the right things. Those are like the two basic things. But thirdly, most importantly, I think I covered it very, very briefly just now on like the websites. Make sure you are going into the right websites rather than something that it's not there. But there's actually some things that we can actually do to prevent you from going into the wrong websites to start with. We can actually do that. Yeah, is there anything else, Intake?
Nope, that's all for now. I'll stop you in between if there's any more coming through later.
Sure, thank you very much, Intake. So I just would like to take a step back and like summarize all the points that I mentioned earlier, where essentially what you did yesterday with your network or what you did yesterday with your office environment, it will not transform your digital transformations tomorrow. So as we embark on this journey in order to make sure that we can move you to a digital landscape, I think you all really need to realize what are the key top priorities that some of the other businesses or other peers around your industry is looking at, and what are the key challenges that is impeding them from actually moving forward with a digital transformation. So definitely, I think from the points that I showed you just now, I think everybody has this top of mind that they want to increase like the security of their data, they want to increase their privacy, they want to increase like the use of cloud. I think cloud is a very big word that all of us know. And at the same time, because we know how IT architectures, it can be something that it's very complex, very confusing and such, they do also would like to simplify like some parts that doesn't need to be complicated and make sure that it is still effective in order to secure like their connectivity to the public internet. And this is where I would like to bring a step back into how Cisco ourselves really did secure our own connectivity and how can we ensure that we are retaining a consistent application performance or application experience to our workers. So I have a colleague who is based out of Australia. His name is Dave. As we all know it, in most of our companies and in most of our business, there is this one guy in the IT team that is basically the superhero in the company. He is responsible to manage a lot of things like servers, networks, applications, this, that, everything. Basically, that guy is a Swiss Army knife within the office that needs to do a lot of things. And a lot of the times, that guy is only somebody who you would actually look for if something goes wrong, but he actually has to do a lot of things when things go wrong or even when things are right. One example was, I believe in March last year, in a snap of a finger or in an almost instantaneous motion of time, we really needed to move everyone into a work from home motion. As like Cisco, as a global company, we have actually encouraged most of our workers to work from home. We needed to make sure that all the users, all the devices, all the networks that I have, it is actually secure, it is actually manageable, and if they were to open any tickets, I can actually be able to support them. So this brings me to like the next slide, where I believe in the different locations where your workers are working from, whether are they working from home, in the office, there is a need to have that consistent experience. There is a need to have that consistent security posture in order to ensure that the usage, the experience, and like how safe my data is being stored within my organization, it is remaining to be safe. And more importantly, this guy, he needs to manage all of this in a way that is pretty easy for him. And when there is a need for a change, or there's a need to be a little bit agile in terms of changing some of the settings, or making sure like I can get everybody to work from home and stuff, he needs to have something that would make it simple for him to move. So in summary, in order to move to a digitization stage, there is an important need amongst all of you who are in this webinar today to really look into things such as like, if I want to get my employees to work from anywhere, how can they stay productive? How can they stay efficient in their work? And how can they be effective with communicating with their peers in the office? I think that's important. Second, I think I can't say this enough, security is definitely another important step. And thirdly, because of how, like I said just now, passwords might not be a single silver bullet that would actually safeguard you from like making sure that you are, how I say, connecting well to this application or not. You need to also make sure that the right people, the right users are actually accessing this application that you have. And more importantly, keep everything as simple as possible. And Yin Ting, I see you on the stage again. Is there another question from the crowd?
Yes, indeed. What, in your opinion, is a barrier from preventing users who are working everywhere from having a good usage experience?
Well, I think this is something that is a common knowledge to a lot of us, where a lot of us out there, we are looking into things in IT as something that is like, oh, I just set it up one time and then I will just need to forget it. And if there's any issues, then only I need to look at it. And when they want to look at it, then they realize that, hey, how did this vendor set it up last time? How did I actually set this up in order to make this application work and stuff? There is a lot of complex processes when it comes to IT. I think we all know it. So when it comes to some of the barriers that we have from the users or from the IT administrators, it is really because some of the tools that there are is either a little bit too legacy, or either it is a little bit complicated in order that like, hey, I forgot like how I set it up, or it could be something that is set up by somebody else in the organization who has already left, and that guy has to pick it up like what that was done by the guy before. So it can be hard in thing.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Derek. Anybody has any more questions? Please feel free to drop it in the chat box, or yeah, we have the questions. Derek, I'll answer your questions when it comes through. Thanks.
Sure. Yes. So I think this is the next part of this presentation where I believe Tasha also mentioned, where we would like to showcase to you like the power of this Meraki platform. But we can't really showcase it to you without first going back to our core mission, our core understanding into like, hey, what is the DNA that is behind this product portfolio or this architecture that Cisco has invested a lot of dollars in since 2012? Meraki is actually a cloud managed solution where we believe in making things as simple as possible. And as we all know it, as I believe Russ has also presented in the previous webinar that a lot of attendees have attended, Cisco is a company that has a lot of different architectures, has a lot of different solutions out there. What we have done with this Meraki solution is that we have taken the best of the breeds of a lot of the enterprise class solutions that we have, but we make it simple, we make it accessible, we make it easy to use so that a lot of the businesses, no matter if you are very big or if you are a small medium enterprise, you will be able to benefit from the best product portfolios that Cisco have in order to transform your digital transformation. So we believe in simplifying a lot, and we believe in making the foundation of your business to be under like the networking architecture, because I think like what we show you just now, like things like the applications, things like the security, things like your workplace that you have, it all falls back down to the network as the core fundamental, where we need to make sure that we are connecting your employees as well as possible, as simple as possible, and they are getting the best performance that they can as possible. So Meraki is actually a platform that encompasses a lot of different solutions. Like we have our access points, we have our switches, we have our SD-WAN appliances. I know in this call, I would really want to make it simple. So this is something where if you have any requirements after this, I think in like the survey, there is a certain part, we can actually explore further into how Meraki can be a solution that would actually assist you with moving into this transformation. And most importantly, as you can see on the right, it is a platform that would actually grant you that visibility into your network as much as possible, as detailed, as simple, and as, how to say, optimized as possible in order to ensure that your IT administrator can be as productive as possible. And this is where we believe in these three fundamental points, where we want to simplify, we want to secure, and we want to make this platform intelligent enough and agile enough where if you need to make a sudden change, or if you need to make a sudden flip of a switch, instead of like going through 100 different commands or 1,000 different settings, it might be just like a few clicks here and there. We would just want to make it easy to use. And in fact, we are the industry's most trusted cloud IT platform, where we have almost 3.5 million users actually on our platform at the moment. And Yinteng, is there another question?
We have a question, yeah. What is your recommendation for those to work from home, especially business owners, to implement an IT system that's fairly reasonable in cost in view of the ongoing pandemic, where most businesses are on sliding scale, but we need maximum security in terms of data protection? So what do you recommend?
Yeah, Yinteng, I think this is a very important question to a lot of our customers out there, or to a lot of the businesses who are in this call. I think essentially, yes, we are moving into a stage where a lot of the businesses, they need to be agile, they need to work from home and such. And we understand that cost is it could be an issue, it could be whatever. But this is where within Cisco, we do have actually a lot of like financing plans, and also we do have a lot of promotions that are out there that's catered specifically for the Malaysian customers. I believe this is where we can actually have a further conversation following this to see what are the right solutions would be suitable for you, and what are the costs that you could actually save up, or you could actually see value from for your business through a more detailed commercial proposal that we can actually work on with you. How does it sound? Anything?
Great. Yeah. So please feel free to just leave us your contact so that we can get in touch with you. We've got a 0% financing offer that we have at this point of time for this group of audiences here today. Derek, another question. Since most of the staff can access company information from outside the office, how can the management monitor any information that's leaking out to third parties?
That is a good question. I will actually show you through like a dashboard demo later. I think let's put this question on hold. I would actually show in the dashboard later.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So let's continue into like the webinar, and let's talk about like, hey, what does a business need to do in order to like transform like their business, or like to move into like a more resilient motion? Very importantly, I think a lot of industries out there, like what Yinteng said, like the question that Yinteng asked, we are moving into a way where there is a lot of remote requirements for a lot of like the workers to work elsewhere, and there is a need for like certain industries in order to make sure that they can actually still serve like their patients or their customers without actually being in a physical environment. This is where we do have a lot of different use cases for like different industries that there is. Like for example, for healthcare, we have like a use case for like telehealth visits. For banking, we have like remote experts. For the education sector, I think like secure distance learning is a most important thing. And one thing that I believe that is important for a lot of our customers, at least from my point of view, is how do I make sure that the executives that I have in the office, or like my management who needs to like talk, who needs to have like consistent video conferences the whole day and such, how can they have a good experience? We do actually have solutions that can optimize those traffic as well. And more importantly, as we try to move back into a office environment, it is also becoming a lot of a paramount importance that we need to secure these networks, or secure these offices in order to make sure that they are safe to go back to. There is less chance of contracting COVID in the office and such. We need to really safeguard like the health and the safety of our employees as and when like the company is ready to move back into like their offices. So there is also things around that. And let me get into another motion where I believe security is something that I think I heard over from the questions that Yinting asked just now. There is also like this other news that I believe as we move into this digital era, there is a lot of different policies, or there's a lot of different laws that is actually coming out from like governments around the world, things like PDPA, IMIT, GDPR, and a lot of companies out there, they also strive to get the ISO 27001 certification out there. There is this need that you need to safeguard those data, you need to stay secure more than ever. And it can only be harder as and when you have workers that are working everywhere, that you have workers that are working through like multiple ways. And this is where I believe Russ has showcased like some solutions that it would actually work for you in the previous webinar, where things such as like Cisco Umbrella, and things such as like how we need to connect to like all the clouds that we have, or you need to connect to all your data that is stored in another cloud and such. How can I make sure that I can manage this as simple as possible and as easy as possible? And this actually also answers like Yinting's second question. I know this can be a bit of a complicated slide, but you just need to remember like this part on our slide, where I think you need to stay assured, you need to stay confident with Cisco, as we are the proven leader in the networking industry. We have the largest of the companies that it's being secured by us, that are utilizing our solutions. And this is where we want to share the best of the breed of the solutions that we have for the enterprise customers. But we, like I said, we are making it simple so that it can be bite-sized and it can be digestible to the larger ecosystem of customers that we have out there. All right. Yes, Yinting?
Okay, we've got a question for you. I'm thinking of moving to the cloud and in process of moving my accounting system online. What are the most important points that I need to take note of?
All right, this is a brilliant question, Yinting. I think most importantly, as we talk about like, hey, moving to the cloud, choosing like the right applications, getting like what is like the right solution for me, I think it is becoming a stage where, yes, you have the application. So what? How can I secure the connection that I have from the branches or from my home office and so on to connect up to the cloud? That is one. I think there is a few things. If like the employee is just a normal knowledge worker, they can actually connect through like their laptops to like VPN to connect to the cloud and such. We have solutions like that. And at the same time, we also have solutions where we can actually ensure that whoever who wants to connect out, it is the right audience, or it is the right user to stay safe and stay secure when connecting to these applications. That is actually the most important part, to have the right access, the right credential for the right users. You have the applications, that's brilliant, but now you really need to think about, how do I secure the connection up, and how do I make sure only the right people is connecting to that application? All right.
We've got another question. Someone that's posting it on YouTube. I think this fellow colleague has actually is very concerned over cyber threats. He's asking for the percentage of cyber threats Malaysian businesses are facing since pandemic, and if this is an alarming number, and if there's an increase in since the pandemic started, what kind of challenge are businesses actually facing during this pandemic? What are the main concerns of businesses?
Well, I think the answer to this is very simple. I think that a lot of the challenges that the business is facing is that, like, hey, if I'm getting like a cyber attack, will my business be disrupted? Or how do I minimize the disruption to my business as and when I detect there's a cyber attack in the network? Because this is where we believe in things such as, like, okay, there is no one solution that would actually be 100% secure to you, or like there is no one vendor that will say that, like, hey, if you use like all of our solutions, you will be guaranteed 100%. What we would actually strive to do is to make sure that whatever solution, whatever security products that you will have, that you are actually consuming from, like, let's say Cisco per se, it would actually increase your efficacy. Okay, something like injecting a vaccine. I think the vaccine manufacturers would also not say that, hey, you take this COVID vaccine, you are 100% safe from the COVID virus. So same thing happens with the IT industry. Same thing happens to us in Cisco. We are here to actually really help you to minimize the risk when it comes to getting like cyber attacks and such. And we are also here to assist you to stay productive and to make sure that even though like you already have like the right people to access and stuff, those people who are actually supposed to be granted, they are having a good application experience. They are actually having a good performance connecting into the services that you are subscribing. You think that's the answer to the question?
Yep, it does. Okay, we've got another question, or maybe another statement. My organization only allow us to use VPN to connect to local LAN, block access to Facebook, Gmail, Ymails, YouTube, and only use Cisco WebEx or event for video calls and business discussions. I reckon this is the kind of solid defense in view of impending cyber attacks, isn't it? I'll leave it to you, Derek, to answer this.
Yes, I think this is a very unique question that I believe you are our how I say ideal customer,
yes,
or our customer who is basically like the right fit for our solution. But no, the thing that if you are just blocking access, it doesn't mean that you are staying safe from your network. What about things such as, like, hey, if I have like a USB drive that contains like a malware, I plug it in, it infects like the whole network. I think that happens to some of our customers. And there could be also things such as, like, hey, you allow like an employee to bring back the laptop to work from home, and the employee also allows like their kid to watch YouTube at the laptop and so on. I mean, those are some things that you cannot prohibit or limit theoretically, right? So the thing that it's quite important, that what I'm trying to say here is there is also off-network threats and there's also in-network threats. The one that is off-network threats, it could be like, hey, when I'm not connected to VPN, I'm trying to like watch like this Korean drama or this YouTube video or like whatever from like whatever. What do you have like sufficient visibility to that? And at the in-network, if somebody were to like drop a USB drive or something in the entrance, I'm very curious what it is. I suddenly plug it in and boom, suddenly like there's a blackout, like how it is in like some of the Mission Impossible movies and stuff. That could theoretically also happen. So this is where we believe that there is supposed to be a combination of bricks into like, how do I ensure that the security posture it is safe lah. This is where you really need to talk to a consultant to see, am I really covering all my bases in all of these different attack vectors that is out there. I think this is important.
Yep. Okay. One last question: cloud versus on-premise, which is more secure?
Cloud versus on-premise. The answer to this is, it depends what is the cloud vendor that there is out there. I mean, to be honest to you, when it comes to a lot of the cloud products that we have from Cisco, we are certified in all of the things that I actually showed up earlier on, with like things such as like the GDPRs, such as like the ISO 27001 of the world and stuff. In fact, a majority of our products it has never encountered any breaches. And because we are a global MNC, we take security really seriously. And if there is anything, we are also very afraid of any penalties that is going to come our way. So there is not a single answer to it. It's just that it is how much, how I say, security postures that we are actually taking in defense, and what are the things that we are actually doing to safeguard the data. Versus if you were to do it on premise, definitely you will need to make sure that within your own network that you are taking care of all of these things by yourself or by engaging a third party consultant and so on to do like the consistent like penetrative tests and all those things. It is something that goes both ways lah. That's what I'm trying to say. There's not a single network or a single vendor that could guarantee you that like, hey, cloud or on-premise, whichever that you use, it is secure. It is how much precaution that you take and how much things that you're actually doing to safeguard your data and to safeguard your network. I think that is more important and a lot more concise in this statement, because you can have a complicated network, but it can be hard to manage. It can be hard to use. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Intake?
Okay, Derek. Yeah, you can continue. We've got more questions coming in, but for later.
Okay. Yeah. So this brings me to the next part of the presentation, where I'm actually somebody who really dislikes slides lah. But because how this is a webinar and how like we cannot meet each other in person, unfortunately this has to do. But this is where I would really want to showcase like the solution that we have with regards to like the Cisco Meraki network. And as you can see, it is a cloud managed portal that you can actually have that visibility and that control into the different networks that you have around the world. You can have your boss sitting in Pulau Tioman in Malaysia. You can have a branch in Penang. You can have a factory in Johor and such. We can actually manage all of these networks under a single view and keeping it simple for you to see, to showcase like, hey, what is the performance of all my different networks? Is everything working fine? Is there any issues here and there? What are the things that I need to prioritize to fix? We will actually show all of this in a single platform for you. And if you see on the left side, we are also one of the only very few vendors out there that would actually allow you to control and manage all of the different solutions that you may have in order to connect a network within the office in the simplest form possible. So a common question that I think a lot of users were to ask me, like, hey, just now there's a question who came which asked, how do I know if my employee is leaking data, or how do I know if there is a data leak within the organization? Very, very simply, the most common indicator, the easiest indicator is if suddenly there is a device that is not supposed to leak out a lot of data, it is suddenly leaking out. It is something consuming a lot of data within the network. That is a very common indicator. And actually, this is where there is a large US retail chain in the US. They actually lost a lot of credit card data of their customers within their network. It is actually also because of this, where suddenly a icon control unit that is managing their headquarters or something like that, it is not secured properly, and a lot of credit card information is leaked out to the dark web. So same thing, very, very easy. You need to consistently check what are the devices that has the large information, how to say, pull through and so on. And is that user supposed to pull that much data? I think this is where we do also have reports that you can actually schedule on and off that would actually tell you which are the users that is taking the most data, and like which are the users that historically they didn't take a lot of data, they didn't use a lot of data in the network, but suddenly, oops, that guy used 150 gigabytes or something like that. You would actually need to consistently review and see what are the things that it's being done here. And another thing that I think is also quite important is also to always also check things such as like, hey, what are like the destinations or like the applications that is being used by the majority of my users? Is it a corporate approved application and such? This is where you do always also need to check and have a look into like, okay, is this network destination, is it supposed to be done there? Why suddenly is there so much traffic that goes out there and such? You need to review it, and we actually have the tools that would actually be able to assist you through this process. All right. And in a very quick summary, I just would like to showcase to you like some of the key pointers into like the Meraki dashboard that would actually assist your organization a lot better. A lot of the companies out there, I think they don't even know like how are all the network devices that they have, like the 8 access points or like the switches and like the firewalls and such, how is everything being connected to each other? And if there is something that goes wrong, which is the device that goes wrong? This is where we can actually do this thing dynamically for you and actually tell you, all right, within the devices that is in the network, what are the ones that we report have that has a lot of issues, and what are the things that if this one is the one that is reporting that has issues, what are the things that you will need to do in order to fix it, or what are the things that maybe the Meraki platform is having like the intelligence enough to like tell you that like, hey, we actually detected this and this is something that we have actually done proactively. Actually, we are moving into this stage where there is going to be a lot more automation, and we are going to use a lot of things like machine learning and stuff in order to simplify a lot of the things that could be routine or could be periodic to a lot of the IT managers out there. And another question that I think that is very relevant that that Yunting has asked me earlier on is, how do I securely connect like my connection between like the branches and like the clouds that we have, like the AWS of the world, the Azure of the world, and Google of the world? We have the simplest VPN in the world, where essentially it just takes only a few clicks in order to establish a VPN tunnel, and we would actually broker all of the settings that is usually very complex with regards to setting up VPN tunnels in order to make it as simple and in order to give you as much analytics as possible into like, hey, how is everything in your network being connected between all the branches and stuff, which of the branch is taking up a lot of data, and like we even have things such as like SD-WAN, where we can optimize your internet connectivity in order to make sure that if you have the right connections out, we would choose whichever one that is having the best performance and having the best speeds in order to make sure that the user experience is the best. And very importantly, when it comes to like things like such as like client VPN and like some into things such as like, how do I make sure that my employees who are working from home, how can they connect back to the HQ? We also make it very simple. We make it something where you just need to turn on the thing or turn off the thing. And you might ask me, hey, how do I deploy like VPN into 100 different devices or 200 different devices that I have? This is where we do have a solution that is called the mobile device management, where easily, very easily, you are actually able to configure things such as like the VPN profiles, the email profiles. You want to push like certain applications and such, you can actually just give in all the details here and onboard all the devices that you have in all the Windows laptops or all the iPhones or all the Mac devices and such, and just make it something like, okay, I just want to connect to this VPN. You just click here and just click save. We will push out all the settings. Or if you're not using a Cisco firewall, you can actually also configure all these things here. In fact, as part of this webinar, we are actually giving a 30-day trial to a lot of you who would want to test out this feature, where we can actually allow you to get like a quick glance and get like a quick view into like, hey, how can I push like applications out to 100 of my laptops, 200 of my laptops and such? You can actually test it out and take it for a test drive for yourself. So it is as simple as that. And I think another thing that is pretty cool with the Meraki dashboard that makes it a lot simpler for you to manage like the application experience is really around things such as like, hey, how do I make sure that if I only have like 500 megabits in my office, how do I make sure that among like my 50 workers, nobody is exceeding like let's say 5 megabits or like 10 megabits because I still need to host some servers and things like that. We can actually do certain things such as like the bandwidth limit per user. And we can also do things where we know that there are certain applications such as like video conferencing that requires a lot more data, that requires like lower latency and such. You can actually set that to have like higher priority and not having to worry like that it would be congested among like the connections. And more importantly, maybe things such as like social media or like the distractions that I say, like the video and the music and such. I know that nowadays, like if you were to block this completely within a office network, like people would still try to find their ways to connect out and such. A lot of the businesses that we know, that a lot of customers that we talk to, what they want to do instead is to limit the connection to all of these applications to as low as possible so that it doesn't congest the network, but it might be still usable, or you're just trying to like prohibit the user from going through the connections. And this goes the same for like businesses who wants to give like certain security devices for their management to bring home. It's also the same thing. You can actually also set like certain things like this in order to make sure that they have the better performance connecting to the business critical applications. But the ones that is less business critical, that is a little bit more casual, it can be at a lower performance or like a lower speed. And when it comes into the last thing that I want to share based on this dashboard that is really easy, really cool, is talking about how much security data or like how much security visibility that you can get from like, hey, what are the clients that is actually getting a lot of threats from the network. I mean, you need to have those visibility in order to detect like, hey, what are the networks, what are the clients that have actually downloaded something, what are the threats that I'm actually seeing a lot in the office, what has the network, the firewall already done to how to say, block these threats from getting up in the network and such. You need to have that visibility in order to protect. If you cannot even see like what is happening in the network, this is where you might have the issues with trying to figure out what are the things that I need to put priority on, what are the things that I need to really secure. We want to make it as simple as possible for you. And in fact, it can just be something like turning on like the threat protection or like turning on like things such as like content filtering in order to prevent your users from going into websites that are not necessarily good, and to prevent the users from going to websites that have the domain name wrongly and such. We even have integrations with things such as like Cisco Umbrella, which would actually grant you that protection as well. Yep. So this brings me back to the quick slides that I have. I think most importantly, what you really need to have amongst like your network is to really have the platform that can actually help you either save costs or avoid production downtime. Because the thing that I believe that I think I have said over and over, having like your employees working from anywhere, I think there's also a challenge with like supporting all of them to make sure that they can connect back to like the HQ, and like sometimes of the time you don't even know like what is happening. I think you need to have that assistance there. And more importantly, it is actually quite important to pinpoint where are the parts within your network that has issues. We do have that capability and that intelligence to tell you what are the things that you need to concentrate on. And Yinteng, I see your face up again, so you have a question, I believe.
A lot of questions from the floor. So first one is, how can we ensure that the connectivity and smoothness of VPN when the individual is work from home, where he or she uses complicated software tools such as 3D modeling software to perform the daily task? I think it's more about bandwidth. That means how to ensure that he's getting stable connectivity through VPN.
Yes, Yinteng. This is where if you have users who are using like the tools that are very, very bandwidth intensive, we would actually advise you to really consider like giving him or her a teleworker device that is basically like a hardware-based VPN modem that would actually connect back to like the HQ more seamlessly and actually be able to secure the data more better. So we do have models that are more desktop based, that is more home based, that would be able to assist with that.
Okay, sounds good. Next one is what solutions does Cisco have for enterprise grade wireless deployments such as Wi-Fi or fixed wireless access 5G?
Fixed wireless access 5G. Okay, when it comes to like the Wi-Fi portion, I believe the ones that you might have heard from Cisco, we have a product line that's called Aeronet, that is the one that's on premise. But the ones that is cloud managed is actually under this Meraki product line that I think I covered in the earlier part of the presentation. This is where through a lot of like really unique features and stuff, you can actually go through our website to see whether is the Meraki Cloud Wi-Fi, would it really assist you with like the requirements that you may have, like what Yinting has mentioned earlier, and to actually take a glance into like how Meraki through like our cloud managed Wi-Fi, we can actually have a true controllerless connection where all your access points that you have is actually reporting back to the cloud controller, and it makes it a lot simpler for you. You have like one less headache to like manage a physical controller in your office.
Okay. Another one, if an attack is detected after it happened, then it might already be too late to get back the stolen data. What about having preemptive defense against such attacks? So I think it's asking for preemptive defense. What are some, do we have such solutions?
Very, very good question.
Talos, yeah.
Yes, yeah, this is where the Cisco Talos threat intelligence that we have would really help you with this. And this is where, as part of our network firewalls that Cisco have, actually by default, we already have a few things that would assist you with that. I mean, first of all, you cannot protect what you cannot see, right? I think that is something that I established earlier. But this is where having the right malware protection, it is important. But at the second thing that we have is actually this thing that we call threat grid, that is actually a part of this malware protection thing, where we can actually send like certain files that, hey, we haven't seen before, but we suspect that it's a threat, into like our cloud services that it's hosted by Cisco Talos, which is our threat intelligence team, to try to run it out there and see what is happening. And if it's something that I think it's something that it's not a right actor, or like not a right how do I say, thing that is supposed to behave like what it's actually trying to do, we would actually send it back like to all our firewalls around the world and say that like, hey, this file, or like this file with this signature that we detected is it's not the right file, it's not the right thing. Please block this file from all the firewalls that we have around the world. We have solutions like that that would actually be able to protect. But more importantly, having the right protection is more important. Having the right detection methods is more important to see what are the things that it's in your network.
Yeah, totally agree. So therefore, it's important for you to actually have the defense pre, during, and after. Okay,
Right.
yeah, one final question. Is it common for IoT devices such as Wi-Fi remote control switch, IP camera to be the culprit for ransomware or cyber attack in networks?
Actually, you're absolutely right. Like that statement itself, it's a very, very common attack vector. The reason why I say it's a very common attack vector is because a lot of the DVRs out there, they do come with things such as like DDNS and so on, where essentially they try to make it as simple, and like you can actually just go into that's actually, if I'm not mistaken, there is a page that actually showcases all of the IP cameras around the world that is exposed to the public internet. I mean, this is where if you have a DVR, or if you have like a video recorder that is recording all your CCTV that is IP based, you might want to turn off that feature and maybe just allow your users to to check the footage if they are connected through VPN. I think that is the step number one. On step number two, maybe you should try to consider like a CCTV solution that would be more secure, that would be more ideal. This is a sudden product insertion where Meraki can actually also assist you with it.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Last but not least, is firewall solution still applicable for cyber attacks?
Actually, I would say a firewall solution is the minimum you need to have in order to prevent cyber attacks. I would rephrase that statement to that. It is just the minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the other security products that you have, it would something that would be complementary to the firewall. And that would be something where if all of the security products that you have can actually also interact with the firewall, this is where it would create a better secure, how I say, grip that would actually assist you with understanding what is actually happening in your network. And Cisco can actually assist with that.
Okay, thanks, Derek.
All right. Yep, I think we reached the end of the webinar, and I think, wow, thank you very much for all the questions that's coming from the floor. I mean, I also learned something new that like there is so many challenges that there is from like our audiences that I think we also will need to really look into how we can address it together with you.
Okay, thanks, Derek. Back to you, Tasha.
Tasha, I believe you're muted.
Yep, thank you, Derek, for the wonderful presentation earlier. And thanks, Derek and Yinteng, for the Q&A session. And we apologize we couldn't get through all of your questions, but we did try our best to take as much as we can. And we are definitely very humbled and honored with everyone's participation. And we are almost coming to the end of today's webinar, and we hope you have enjoyed and benefited from this session. We just have one final request from you, which is to share your thoughts with us about today's webinar by completing a very short 2-minute survey. To complete the survey, you just need to scan the QR code that is on your screen or go to bit.ly/Cisco feedback2. Your feedback is important for us to keep providing you better event experiences. Complete the survey and get a 30-day free trial for Meraki's device management software, and you will also be able to try Cisco's remote working solutions for free. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Star Media Group, a big thank you to everyone for being with us throughout this entire program. We would like to also thank our partner Cisco for joining us in making this webinar a success. If you need any assistance from us, please reach out to us at events@thestar.com.my. Once again, thank you, and we look forward to host you again at the next event. Till then, stay safe, stay innovative, and be disruptive.